Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of Steeler Stat Geek. This is Dave Schofield, deputy editor of Behind the Steel Curtain, coming to you again, talking about some numbers from what just happened within the past week and what we can look at as we look forward to the first preseason game that the Steelers have coming up here in just a few days. It's been an interesting week. It's been had some nice different activities that the Steelers offered this year. Well, they offer every year, but over this past weekend, almost back to back, where we had Friday Night Lights at Latrobe High School on Friday evening, and then there was the Family Fest at Heinz Field on Sunday. Players had a day off on Monday, and then they got back into it today with practice. So here we are. We're back. We have some uh, great Steeler stuff that we could talk about. Um, the way this generally works is we're going to talk about a number and then see if anyone else has some good numbers from the week that was from this past week, and then we'll start to look forward and say, hey, what can we look at the week coming up? What number stands out with what's going on? So before we get there, I just want to say we've had a nice fun time at Behind the Steel Curtain this week with had a giveaway of a couple tickets to the game on Friday, so that was excited. That was really exciting to do that. We also had the didn't come through exactly the right way last Thursday when we were going to announce the giveaway of the David DeCastro signed football. What we were going to do for that, we had some technical difficulties, problem getting on the air. I actually got held up almost 20 minutes tonight. We are sorry, I'm already distracted in the live chat because if you're on live on YouTube right now, you might see that I have my Andre the Giant wrestling doll from way back in the day over my shoulder. My son left that down here. He was watching The Princess Bride and wanted to have that with him as he watched it. So it ended up on the shelf. So we're just wanted to mention that we are going to be doing a giveaway for a signed David DeCastro football. We'll get the details out in an article here in the next few weeks, but I'm going to go ahead and let you know what we're going to be doing. It's going to be real simple, but it's going to take some time. If you or anyone who's done fantasy sports before, you might already have the first part of what you need to do already accomplished, and that is we are going to do a behind the steel curtain Survivor Football League. For those of you that aren't familiar with that, it's you sign up for the league. You just have to have a Yahoo ID. You sign in up for the league, and every week you're going to pick one team to win. You start off with week one. You pick one team. If that team wins their game, you move on to week two. If that team loses their game, you're out. The one trick to the whole system is also this. Once you use a team, once you've picked a team, you cannot use that team again. So if you want to pick the Steelers to beat the Patriots week one, that's fine. But after the Steelers beat the Patriots in week one, you can't pick them again to win at home against Seattle in week two. You can't use the Steelers at all again. So we're going to do it. We're just going to set it up. It's going to be open to anybody. We're going to get the beat behind the steel curtain staffers in the league as well, hopefully, and they're going to be eligible to win as well because we're going to leave it open for everybody. But if even if you don't win, you can at least see if you could do better than some of the rest of us. But it should be a lot of fun. Want to get a lot of people in there, and there's some other little details that go along with it. But we'll get that information out to you with the number, the code, the password, or just an easy link that you just click on. We'll put in an article. We'll get that information out to you here as the season gets a little bit closer. If you want to do anything to get ready for it, if you don't have one, go ahead and sign up for a Yahoo ID. That's the main thing that you could do. Now, one of the things with this show as we talk about numbers is we're going to be constantly looking at the live chat right now here on YouTube. So if you're watching live on YouTube, jump on into the live chat and say hello and drop a question, give us some numbers. If you're in there already, you could already see that you can use the super chat feature. The super chat feature is you can type in whatever you want, and then right there's a little dollar sign, and you can click on that, and you can donate any amount of money you want to the show. You do not need to use the super chat feature. I'm going to try to catch all the comments anyway, but if you do the super chat feature, you instantly get bumped to the head of the line. We will definitely talk about what you say, deeming that it's appropriate. And we already have one already. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with this. Um, and this is from Leo. He actually threw this in last night with a hangover. He says that we need to kick Lance off of our channel for saying that Rivers is a better quarterback than Ben. Um, and he's also went in there about some numbers that he'd like to see for this coming week. So I'm going to hold off on the rest of what Leo had to say until we get there. So let's talk about the week that was with the Steelers, and let's go with any number that would pop out. Now I'm going to go back a little bit further than a week, and I'm going to throw out the number 10. And the number 10 is the number of practices that the Steelers have had so far in training camp. Not only have they had 10 practices, they have had 10 full practices. The Steelers have managed to not have any practices canceled or moved inside or shortened because of inclement weather. That's a pretty big deal for this time of year in Latrobe. That there's usually something that keeps the Steelers from getting a full practice. Now, I know for Friday Night Lights they were concerned about it at the time. They were calling for some possibly bad weather, but they were able to get that in and everything in time. And it's really been great because even just missing that one practice time, you think, well, that's not big of a deal, but it really is. That's why the NFL sets it up that you can only start training camp so many days before your first preseason game. That's why the teams that played already in the Hall of Fame game, they started training camp early because they had so many days to prepare for it. So it puts everyone on an even playing field. So that's my number of what's already happened, and that's 10 practices. I think 7 of which were padded. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 7 padded practices. So 10 practices, all full practices, none cut short due to weather. That's a great opportunity for everyone to get some work in. So don't know if anyone else in the live chat has any numbers that were standing out for them from the past week. I have a feeling that most people really want to just get moving on to what's coming up. So uh, just to check over here. Um, so here we go. That There was another podcast that someone said that they're listening and heard about Mr. Third and Fifth. That's a name that actually Lance Williams and myself came up with when I was filling in for Jeff on the BTSE flagship podcast. The Standard is the Standard, and we just decided we weren't going to use his name anymore. And what I said, what he was to the Steelers, is Third and Fifth, and Lance Williams ran with it. So that's his new nickname. Um, so here we go. I don't know if anyone else is ready for it. I don't want to look back anymore. I'm done with looking back. I can't wait for Friday night's game. I'm actually, if all things go according to plan, I think I'm actually going to be there in the stands for this one on Friday night. I know it's just a preseason game, but when you have young children, it's a lot easier to take them to a preseason game than it is to a regular season game. I would highly suggest it to anyone who wants to uh, kind of get their feet wet with taking their kids to the game. I did this last year with my daughter, and we're going to go again this week. And really looking forward to that. You can get better ticket prices. You can have the feeling of I don't have to stick around for the whole thing if your child just has kind of had enough. It's really a good way to go. So let's start looking forward. Let's look forward here. I've got a number that I really wanted to throw out there that I think is a great number that we need for Friday night's preseason game, week 1 of the preseason at Heinz Field against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That number I'm looking at is 30. So you're probably wondering, what in the world do you mean with 30? And I'm just going to be honest. I might be wishful thinking here, but I really want to see the Steelers put up 30 points on the board. End of story. There's really no reason that they shouldn't be able to put up 30 points in the preseason because teams don't game plan. There's no game plan in week 1 of the preseason or generally in week 2 of the preseason. Week 3 of the preseason is when teams started to try to get used to the whole notion of game planning, and trying to get in the routine of how of how it would the week would work. So if the team's not coming out there specifically trying to shut down certain weapons, I say let's put up 30 points. Now, last season, the Steelers did put up 30 points 3 different times on their preseason games. They put up 31 in week 1, and they put up 34 in week 2, which happened to be the game that they lost because they gave up 51 to the Green Bay Packers. Only put up 16 in week 3 against, who was that? Was that Tennessee again last year in week 3? I'm pretty sure it was. Um, but they only put up 16, but they won the game 16-6. And then week 4 was that Carolina Panther game where they put up 39. So 3 out of the 4 games last year they put up 30 points in the preseason. So with the offense and the spreading the ball around, although a lot of people aren't going to play, Ben Roethlisberger is not going to play. I'm fairly certain James Conner is most likely not going to play, or if he does, it will be one series. I think we're going to get a little bit from Juju, and I think we're going to see a lot from other people. The guys on offense I think aren't going to play are going to be your linemen, and they're going to be anybody you could possibly be nicked up. I don't see wouldn't be I'd be really surprised if both Pouncey and DeCastro were playing, and then Big Al Villanueva was dinged up today at practice and didn't finish. We'll have to see what his status is tomorrow. So there we go. The problem is, beyond last season, the Steelers do not have a good record of putting up a lot of points in the preseason. In 2017, they put up 20 points in week 1, and that was the most points they put up all season. They finished up 17 and 15 and 17. And then 2016 was really up and down because they went from 17 in week 1 to a big fat 0 at home against the Eagles in week 2, and then they put up 27 in week 3, and was able to beat the New Orleans Saints, I do believe. And that's where you want to see your most points is in that week 3 because that's when your starters play the most. And that was the problem last year that the Steelers, the only game that they didn't put up 30 points was the game that their starters were playing more. And then the last week in that back in 2016, they only put up 6. So the preseason really goes to show how much depth do you really have. Because if you're not going to be playing your starters much, you want to see what kind of depth you have. So that's why I think the Steelers have some pretty good depth at some good positions. They are extremely deep on the offensive line. Personally believe they're pretty deep at their quarterback position. I think it's more of a battle, more than oh my goodness, we've got no one to do it. Some crazy people, some former Steelers, and I say former. It's kind of hard to call them a former Steeler if they were there for 1 year. It's happened to say that the reason the Steelers won't have a very good year is because they don't have a backup quarterback. Well, how often did the backup quarterback play last season? Not even half of a game. So to say that that's why you're not going to win games is just I think kind of crazy. But I think they do have backup quarterbacks. I think the question is which one. So I think that the Steelers could come out and put up some points on Friday, and that's what I'm hoping to see. So I want to go back and catch Leo what he would like to see in the super chat. He says he wants to see Mason Rudolph throw 3 touchdowns with no interceptions, and he would like to see Benny Snell go over 100 yards. That honestly, out of those 3 stats, 3 TDs, no interceptions, and Snell over 100 yards, I think the one most likely or the one that's going to be hardest is probably going to be the no interceptions because a lot of times with younger receivers and everything else, there's a miscommunication that sometimes you will see those large amount of interceptions in the preseason. So I'd even be okay if there was an interception there, but I'd really like to see none. And 3 touchdowns from Rudolph. We're not sure who's gonna be going first yet. I know tomorrow on Wednesday, because this is being recorded Tuesday night, is Mike Tomlin's press conference. So maybe he'll give us an indication as to who is and is not going to be playing on Friday. So we'll just see, but I would not be one bit surprised to see Benny Snell go over 100 yards because I think he's going to get a decent bit of work on Friday night. So we'll just have to see what's going on there. Let's see what else do we have here. We got another super chat question about who are the backup tight ends. That's kind of interesting because the Steelers did release their depth charts today. And before I get into it too much, I just want to say don't put too much stock in the Steelers' depth chart. Just don't do it because Mike Tomlin could care less about their depth chart at this moment, and yet they're responsible for doing it. So he doesn't care. He just kind of puts it out there, but yet the league requires it, and it means it's there. That's something to look at, something to talk about. To talk about the tight end specifically, that's a pretty good question. I want to try to bring it up here if I can. What the exact depth chart was. I'm pretty sure I remember it off the top of my head anyway, but I'm gonna see if I can bring that up. And that is, of course, Vance McDonald is listed at number one, and Xavier Grimble is number two. The thing that starts to get surprising is where they go from there. And a lot of times they'll just go with seniority. And what they had was um, here I'm trying to I'm on uh, behind the steel curtain trying to go right now and get the and in the article and get it is they had Christian Scotland Williamson listed as the number three tight end. And if you don't remember who that is, he's their international player that they have to where they could keep 91 on the roster, and he can be an extra player on the practice squad through the international program. They currently have him listed as the third tight end. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be surprised if he's the third tight end when it comes to the regular season because if you can keep an extra guy on the practice squad and it doesn't hurt you, he's really got to be pushing and really good to say I've got to be up there on the 53 man roster because there's really no incentive to put him there unless he is head and shoulders above anyone else that you have. So don't be surprised to see him not finish up there. Now, just to be official, after Scotland Williamson, Kevin Rader is the next one. I'm not 100% sure. He's been with the Steelers before. He might have been on the practice squad last year, but I'm not exactly sure. So I think he might have been with him a little bit longer. And then as the last spot for the tight end depth, they have both Zach Gentry and Trevor Wood, where Zach Gentry was obviously the fifth round pick. Trevor Wood was an undrafted rookie free agent that they picked up, who was also a long snapper, but he showed some good things at times in camp. So that's the depth chart. I'm not saying that depth chart is great. I'm thinking that that's a position that I wouldn't be shocked out of any of them if the Steelers made a move. So here we go. We got some other people asking about the backup tight ends. So here we go. Steeler fan 74. He's a UK football fan. Obviously that's not United Kingdom. That's at University of Kentucky. If I just to be clear, he wants to see Benny Snell Jr. pound the rock. I think we're going to see a lot of that this preseason. I think he's going to lead the Steelers in rushing attempts during the preseason. I have my brother in the live chat. You can figure that out by the last name. He said zero injuries, and he's making fun of my English. So thanks, big bro. I really appreciate it. Um, the question was that is a great question right there. We from I got to say that right. Swifty Pool. I almost messed that up. Swifty Pool, I think is how we say that. Can he be poached like other practice squad players? That's a great question. And I'm going to say if he's on the Steelers practice squad, although they get the exemption to have the extra player, I don't think there's anything that's keeping another NFL squad from signing him to their active roster. Now, I could be wrong because I'm not 100% sure of how all this stuff works with the international players. But that's a really good question. So that would be one reason to say, hey, do we want to have him on the active roster? But I think he would have to be definitively better than anybody else in order for them to do that. Um, we got another super chat coming in here. 410 Carpenter Legend says, I feel good about this season. You know what? I feel good about this season too. But this is also the time of year where a lot of NFL fans feel pretty good about the season. Cleveland Brown fans are feeling really, really good about the season, and they've been listening to a lot of people telling them that they should feel good about the season. But come week 8, we'll see exactly how they are feeling. So I feel great. I w- I don't want I want the Steelers' first preseason game to be unnewsworthy. I mean, granted, it would be nice because somebody like Benny Snell puts up a bunch of yards or touchdowns, or Mason Rudolph or Josh Dobbs, any of those guys. That would be great to be newsworthy. But chances are in the preseason, even if you're just going out there and tearing up, they're not going to say much. What's really going to bring the news is what was brought up before: zero, zero injuries. If you get out of that zero, if you get a marquee player that suffers an injury, that's what's going to be in the news. So I'm going to open it up now to, if you want to throw out any numbers that you would like to see for Friday night, that would be fantastic at this point. If anyone else has some good ideas, or if you just have questions in general right now, we'll kind of open it up here to in the live chat for that. So those are my numbers. It was 10 practices our belt with the Steelers. All 10 practices have been full length practices and haven't had any canceled because of weather. And then coming up to this week, I'd really like to see the Steelers be able to put up 30 points on the board. So I know that that seems like a lot, but and notice I didn't even talk about the defense. I'm not overly concerned with how many points the defense is going to give up versus how individual players are playing in specific circumstances, because it doesn't always mean, I mean, putting up points could just be one player missing one job and then the team getting a touchdown from it. And chances are, if that one player doesn't do their job on that one play, that one player is not going to be on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster in 2019. So that's why sometimes I'm not as worried about the plays they're giving up. It's more how they're giving up. If the Steelers give up, I don't know, let's say 3 touchdowns all on 3 big plays, I could write that off. If they're just if a team is just running the ball on them play after play after play and churning out 8 to 15 yards every time they touch the ball and that they run it, then that's when you would be concerned more about the defense. Don't worry about the big plays if they give up big plays in the preseason. At the same time, that means you can't get too excited about big plays on offense, but yeah, we are. We're going to get excited about big plays on offense. I know I'm going to. So here we go. Ali, he's in the live chat with almost all of our podcast that we have here on Behind the Steel Curtain. He says 1-1 kickoff and punt returns for touchdowns. That would be nice to see in the preseason, um, because that's another position to look at on the depth chart that was interesting. Was that Ryan Switzer was listed as both the punt returner and kick returner, but even going 3 positions deep, Eli Rogers was not on the list. Who was it? It was Juju Smith-Schuster as a kick returner, and Artie Burns was, I'm pretty sure he was the 3rd kick returner, and then the punt returners were Deontay Johnson and Cam Sutton, were the ones that were listed, but there was no Eli Rogers there at all. So I don't think that the problem with the Steelers special teams and their lack of returns, because remember, the last time the Steelers have returned a kick for a touchdown was in 2017. The last week of the season was Juju Smith-Schuster on a kickoff against the Browns. I think the biggest problem is their blocking, and then on defense, and their tackling and staying in lanes and covering kicks. I'd like to see no more than every punt return no more than 7 yards, and every kick return I'm going to assume that they're probably going down inside the 5 of being no more than, we'll even say 25 yards. I'd like to see that as part of the numbers on the defense, the defensive part of special teams. Um, it would nice, even if it's not a touchdown, I'd like to see a nice return that just shows that we have some guys that can get the blocking done on a punt and on the kickoff. If I honestly, I don't even care to see the Steelers block a punt because that's something I know that Danny Smith can dial up during the regular season. I don't have to see anything fancy to pull that off during the preseason. So that's good. Look at the special teams, 1-1. So so here we go. Let's see. We got some more. How much time do you think the free agent vets will play? I'm going to say no, none. um, Free agent vets. I'm assuming you're meaning. Oh yeah, that's from Cree Ickes, I do believe is the way to say it. Um, I think you're talking about Dante Moncrief, Mark Barron, um, and of course Steven Nelson. I think I think you'll see all three of them because they want to see what they can do with Steeler uniform. Possibly not Barron. He's been in and out of resting. I don't know if he was just given rest or had a slight injury. They don't always say. Moncrief missed a little bit of time with the finger. I wouldn't be surprised to see them each play a series, but no more, but not past the first quarter. But that's just a guess. Maybe we'll know more after tomorrow's press conference. So, um, sh- um, Swifty Pool once again is happy to watch 60 minutes of Steelers football. But until week one, once again, zero injuries. Got you there. Um, Talking about wanting to get some other returners like Deontay Spencer. He's not listed there. Less penalties on special teams would be great. That's from Mike. I'm not even going to try to butcher your last name, Mike. I'm sorry. Um, that I and it starts in the preseason. That would be fantastic to not see the penalties on special teams. Sometimes I wonder. I don't know. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. Sometimes I wonder if the NFL almost has an agenda that they don't like the kickoff because it seems like anytime, half the time when teams decide to bring the ball out, there's going to be a flag for something on the receiving team. That it's almost not worth trying to get a kick return because of because of you're just going to be given a penalty and then pushed back. It's almost like they go out of their way to call those penalties sometimes, not just on the Steelers but on everybody. So that's just that's a play they've been trying to get out of the game for a while, and they haven't been able to figure out how to do it and still allow an onside kick. I know the AAF tinkered with some stuff before they went under, but I don't know if that's anything serious that the Steelers could consider. So so it's the special teams penalties. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know who's guilty of penalties a good bit on special teams, especially on the punt team, is their long snapper. I guess because he's a little bit undersized, he has a real bad tendency to hold, and he gets called for it probably only a quarter or less the time that he actually does it, and he was flagged for it at least 2, if not 3 times last year. But between that and the holdings and the block in the back, it would be really nice to see some penalty-free special teams. I'm hoping that this game is fairly penalty-free in the first place, but it's week 1 of the preseason with guys fighting for roster spots. I think that's an awful lot of wishful thinking on my part to think there's not gonna be many penalties because we saw what happened with the Steelers last season. They had tons of penalties the first 3 weeks of the season, and it just kinda they got better from there. But that's just I don't know if it's the way the officials are. Teams aren't just aren't quite ready for doing the things that they're doing. But there's an awful lot of penalties early. I did not look up the penalty stats for the preseason because it's the preseason. That's pretty much why. But that'd be nice to see. Um, Here's another one: pre-snap penalties. Pre-snap penalties on offense, like illegal procedure, meaning jumping off sides, two men in motion, delay of game, things like that. It would be really nice to see the Steelers in and out of the huddle, get to the line, make your call, run your play. Everyone's lined up right. Everyone doesn't leave early. That's what probably one of the biggest things that the coaches are looking for in the game. So, all right. Well, it looks like we're kind of dried up a little bit here in the live chat. But those are our numbers for this week. I hope you all are enjoying the show. That this is just the second show here of the Steelers Stat Geek. I hope I hope it's not too geeky for you. Like I said to my wife earlier, if you really want to hear it be geeky, um, the thing about this show is it's just me because I'm doing this show style. Uh, it's solo. Uh, that's right. So once again, some people just chiming in about the penalties, talking about some more about the reps at corner, and I what you're going to see in week one of the preseason is anybody other than the top end guys that are available. They're going to try to get them out there and get them some action and see what they can do. If someone that you're curious about that's questionable to make the roster isn't getting much action, it means they're probably either dinged up or they haven't really shown much in camp yet that they really wanted to see what they were doing. So that's what we had to look forward to. I'm excited. It's been a long time. We are now into the 8th month of 2019 and we have yet to see the Pittsburgh Steelers on the field in this calendar year because we did not get to see any games going into January this past season. So I'm ready for it. I think you all are ready for it. Please, please, please make sure you are tuning in to our whole family of podcasts. We are now up to, I'd say 6, but I'm pretty sure that now because we have games that we're going to be doing the Steelers post-game show with Jeff Hartman and Lance Williams or whoever is going to be on the show whenever those come up. That would now make it 7 podcasts a week. So you should be getting, especially this week, you should be looking at a podcast every day from behind the steel curtain. And not only is it a podcast every day, we have now moved every show to be live on YouTube. So we've got live shows on YouTube every day. Make sure you've subscribed to our YouTube channel. You will get alerts whenever a show is going live. I um, Kathy Ford just threw $2 into the tip jar just to say that she enjoyed the show. Thank you very much. It's been fun. It's been great. If you can't catch the shows live on YouTube, they are available for replay on YouTube. And then, of course, we also have them as our actual podcasts. Just look for Behind the Steel Curtain or BTSC Steelers. Pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts on. Um, I, I don't even know them all. Uh, Jeff's the guy that can ramble them all off. So, or even look for the articles on Behind the Steel Curtain that you can listen to the podcasts directly through them. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you've had fun geeking out with me, and we will see you again next week. So, when we have a game that we can spend more time talking about the numbers from the week that was, we'll see you all next week.